Light as a feather, stiff as a board. Light as a feather, stiff as a board. We are the weirdos, mister.
Black as night, erase death from our sight. White as light, mighty hectate, make it right. I myself am strange and unusual.
Cast a circle, spark some incense, and grab a cup of tea, because it's time for the Cousins Coven podcast. I'm Sharon.
And this is Wendy. Welcome back to the Coven, you guys.
Woo! Welcome back to another episode.
Yay.
So I know we didn't have too much personal updates today, but I did have one thing that may or may not be worth mentioning. I'll let you decide.
Okay.
But I had a really weird dream that felt at the time like out-of-body experience.
Nice.
So I don't know if it really happened or not, because I was kind of like, I guess you could say, the hypnagogic state, half awake, half asleep. I was on a day off, so I just kind of like, I woke up early and then I watched some YouTube videos and I decided to, you know what, I'm just going to sleep. It just feels so good. So I went back to sleep. But kind of when you do that, you know, when you're like in and out of it. So I just had this feeling of like that vibrational feeling. And I was thinking to myself, like, if I'm going to leave my body, this is the time. And so, like, I try that technique where you just, like, sit up really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I got this weird, like, head rushy feeling. And I remember looking over to my right and seeing, like, this weird, I guess you could say he was, like, a dark gray creature in the corner of the room. And I just felt like he was, like, reaching out to me. And so I was like, okay, you can't panic. You can't let these things have power over you. And I'm just thinking to myself, love and light. And like trying to haul ass down the hallway.
Nice.
And so I'm like leaving the room. And the next thing I know, my vision goes from my house to looking like I'm going through like a tunnel of space. And it's just going super, super, super fast. And then the next thing I know, I'm just like sleeping. I don't remember anything.
I love that. I've had that same type of experience.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I mean, except for the part where you saw somebody, I don't always see somebody. A lot of times I'll see colors, but I won't see an actual shape. So
it might have not been just a dream?
No, it might not have been it kind of sounds like an astral projection thing. So
yes.
I know, right? So for me, when I'm doing that, I too it'll feel like you're just going really, really fast. And it's like you're transversing through everything in order to get somewhere. So maybe you did go out into the space. Like, that's what I always do. I tend to go to different planets, which is kind of weird, but because obviously I've never been to a different planet physically.
Right.
So
I wonder if that is a memory that I have, or if I literally just like used all my energy, shot out, and then went back to sleep. Like, what happened since I just lost memory?
Right. There's a possibility that it would be, I hate to use this word, but it would be like something you would need to get regressed about, because it's probably in your subconscious about what really happened, but your waking mind doesn't remember or grasp it, but your soul would remember.
Yes, I am so down to do some hypnotherapy sessions together.
For sure. I know.
So I wasn't quite sure what I thought that entity was. I've just heard that, like, we share the same kind of space with these other dimensions. So I wasn't trying to take it like a threat, like something was bad in my room. But I've honestly been a little creeped out. And I keep trying to tell I'm just telling myself out loud, like, you're not allowed here, get out of here. But I just have been freaking myself out. And so, like, twice now in this week, like, I'll be just laying in bed and I'll hear, like, a breath come out. And it's not me or my dog, I swear. And I just look over that corner and I'm like, like, what is this noise?
Right. I find that the more and more I astral project or have those kind of things, I do have almost like a ripple effect or a remnant of that plane of existence popping into this one. Sometimes to the point where I don't know. It's really hard. It makes me feel really crazy.
Right.
But like the planes of existence are so close together that it would be easy.
For like auditory things to potentially.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it could be. And it's hard to say when you're in that sleepy state, because weird stuff can happen and it feels so real.
Right.
So
just the fact that you saw something is pretty cool. and that you felt that experience. It does sound like you were astral projecting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
that's like awesome.
I know, it's very awesome because I know you've wanted to do that for a while and you've struggled. Yeah.
I feel like maybe the last 2 years or maybe a year, that was just something I was fascinated with. I guess it's just that escapism in me that it's always looking for something otherworldly.
Right.
But maybe I don't know. We'll see if it happens again. I'll keep you updated.
That was awesome. Plus, you're less inhibited now. Like, I've been really kind of defining what has caused fear in me for the past probably month or so. I've really been diving into where my fear comes from.
Oh, that's
and
brave.
So it is, right? And so, but everything scares me. Like, I've missed out on so many opportunities in my life because of fear. And so, and it's that fear that makes my anxiety, that makes my doubt. And so I'm trying to figure out where that comes. And so for you, that means that you've let go of that fear of astral projection, of whether something's going to happen to you when you're gone. Because I remember at the beginning of the podcast season, last season, when we did the astral projection episode, you were like, whoa, I'm just too scared. Well, obviously you're not afraid anymore.
That's true. And like the first thing I do was see something and I'm still not scared.
Right. So kudos for being brave and letting go of that fear.
Yay. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think that I should have looked back at my body because I think that's probably not something you can do in a dream, right?
I don't think so. Yeah.
That would be a good test.
Yeah, it'd be a really good test. I've heard people say that they always look at their hands too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I try not to doubt it because it's happened so many times now for me that I try not to doubt what's going on anymore. So that doubt and that fear just really clouds my experience. So I've been trying really hard to let go of that.
I think it's so natural for us as humans to have that like fear response. I don't know if that's just an ancestral kind of thing because we used to be like cavemen and women scared of everything, trying to fight for survival. And I don't know, the older I get, the more anxiety I do tend to have, but I'm just trying to find ways to cope with it. So I feel like yoga and meditation was one of the few things that really helped me with that, like just taking time to slow down.
Absolutely. I think one time we should do an episode on the different planes of existence and kind of go into those. This episode, you guys were talking about aliens, and I know while I was doing my research, I was finding out different planes of existence.
Yes, and I would love to do that because I hear about fifth dimension, this dimensional being, and I don't really know what that means. I'm only kind of guessing.
Right, because there's the dimensions and there's the planes, and I'm not really sure if they're the same thing or different because the planes of existence come from something called theosophy, which is spelled Theosophy. And I'll kind of go into that a little bit more when I'm talking about one of the alien species.
Yeah, should we just get right into our main topic for today?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. So yeah, like we mentioned, we're going to be talking about aliens. And for this episode, we really wanted to think about the different types of alien races. And just looking into them more, I was able to find out that like each type kind of has their own agenda, that they may or may not be working together. And it seems like most of them are pretty benevolent, but then there is that more type of race that has an insidious agenda to humanity. So we're just going to cover like a few different types of races and their personality traits and what people have reported about them.
Right. And you guys keep an open mind about this because I know it's really scary. You're like, oh my God, there are no other races. We are humans and this is the only race.
Yeah.
But that's not entirely true. I just think that our earthly scientists and things like that have not found them because they haven't traversed the universe. We've only made it as far as the moon. Nobody can say that they've actually stepped feet in any other planet in our solar system. So just because we have pictures of something from solar systems or other universes, that doesn't quite do it justice as if we were there ourselves.
Right. I did see actually something today about the rovers on Mars.
Oh.
And one of the rovers, like just today, they found like a puff of some sort of like methane gas. And me not being scientific, I didn't really know what that meant, but it was something about like the methane is only something that would be a trace of, I guess, life forms or life being there. And so the fact that the rover was able to find it, that meant that it's recent from at least the last 1,000 years. So they're kind of wondering if there's something living, I guess, underneath the surface. I don't think they mean like aliens, but probably like microscopic beings and things like that. They're just saying,
potentially small animals.
Oh, true. So they're trying to say this is a really good hint at life on Mars, but they're going to try to research it a little bit more before they say for sure what's going on.
Right. So I know that there have been several pictures that have come from the rover that people have kind of dissected, but without having people there, they won't know for sure. Like they've found things that could potentially be small animal life, or something like that could potentially be as big as a scorpion. Oh. Which, they aren't too big, but they've found things that appeared to be moving, but they're not sure, is that just something that's there, some remnant of something that's there, but it's being pushed by the wind? Because Mars does have those high winds. So they're not sure, is it moving on its own? Is it actual life?
Interesting.
So
I mean, if something would survive on that like kind of environment, it would have to be something lizard-like or scorpion-like. That would make sense.
Yeah. I guess my only problem with that kind of thing is that the only thing that we have to base on life is what we have here on Earth. So we don't know what else exists out there in the universe.
Right.
It might not follow the same types of rules that we follow here.
I agree. And for me, when I was researching the different types, I kind of had to look at it like this is maybe a folklore. There could be some truth based on this information. Sure. But I don't know 100% like if I can just say, oh, I read it online, so it's all true. A lot of it, I feel like it's a combination of stories passed down orally or all these kinds of crazy things. So it's interesting to see where people get this information.
Right. It is kind of cool. When we were researching, I think that there were several, places of information where information could be found. So one of them that we did you read the KGB book?
I only read parts on the aliens that I'm covering and then went from there.
Okay, so I read the whole book. We found this book online called Introduction to Alien Races by Gil Carlson. And it's basically this book that he calls this KGB book because he was helping his friend over in Spain or something like that. And his friend's dad was retired KGB. And when they were helping him clean up his place, they found all of these books that had this alien stuff in there. And it was all labeled like top secret. Don't tell anybody about it. Now, it's hard to say if the information in there is correct because when we were looking at the pictures, didn't we both find similarities between what's in movies and video games?
That's where I kind of got skeptical because I do play Mass Effect, which is a very sci-fi game, and there's lots of really great alien lore, and they were literally just pulling pictures from there and saying that that was a type, and they even used the same name. And I was like, if you're going to use the picture, change the damn name.
Right, exactly. And then their reasoning behind that was actually that they had all the information first, and then they sold the information to the video game companies and mass media to get it out there.
That would be great if all the creatures from Mass Effect were real. That'd be great. I'd be down.
Kind of creepy, but cool.
Yeah. I found a lot of information. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I found a lot of information just online and even in YouTube videos. And for me, what I was finding is that some of the descriptions were almost word for word the same. So I don't know who was the first person to say it, but it almost is just like everyone's copying and pasting the same type of things for some of these.
Right. That was what I came across too. I did find a few eyewitness accounts, but I just felt they didn't seem very credible.
Right. It's such a hard line.
Right. And they just seemed kind of crazy, but then I'm like, well, I seem kind of crazy. Right. So it's hard to say what's real. Maybe if I had heard or seen them in person and not just been reading it, it might be a little bit different and a little more believable.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people that I came across where they said that they found out about aliens due to automatic writing, that aliens would write through them.
I can't even take that seriously, even if it's true for them. If it's true for you, cool,
right.
But it doesn't mean anything to me personally.
Sure.
You know, because I mean, like, as a pagan person, we do that all the time. And
right, I was going to say, I do automatic writing all the time, but I always think it's from spirits from the other side.
Right, so if you want to label what that is to you as an alien, go for it. I'll label it as a god or an ancestor. So I'm not trying to judge how people do that, but I just don't know if that's enough. Like...
Right, exactly. I know that there are people, too, who believe that some of the information that they obtained was done while they were meditating. So in a deep meditative state, they were able to access what's something called the Akashic Record, which I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but it's basically this theory that it's kind of like a library for a computer, I guess, that all the information in all of the world, all of the universes, all the planes of existence is in this one library of information. The only thing I can think of is like this supercomputer, and the Akashic Record is basically where your mind is connecting to that supercomputer and downloading the information. And so there are people that say that in their deep meditative state, that information came to them through this Akashic Record. So I don't know. I mean, I waver about whether I believe in this Akashic thing, but have you ever heard of it?
I have heard of it, yeah. And then in more vague terms, not it being called that. Like just recently, I was reading about like shamans and even like German shamans and Nordic shamans. And the way you're describing it is how they were describing like how a shaman would basically, the initiations they would endure would be crazy. Like they wouldn't have sex, they would fast, they wouldn't really sleep much. They would stay up for days on end and sometimes even like have induced pain kind of things, and meditate, take mushrooms. And then through all this extremities, they were able to tap into this visions and this otherworldly beings and things like that.
Right.
So
kind of like DMT.
So I think that it's possible that if aliens were to communicate with us, why the hell wouldn't they be one of those things reaching through? But I'm also curious to see like about the aliens that I guess have been here on Earth. Did you want to start us off with our first type of alien?
Yeah, we have the Greys. That's who I was going to talk about first. So I was actually interested to find out that there are several different forms of gray aliens, but there's only one gray that we see all of the time.
Really?
So, yeah. So basically, you know, all the pictures that we see online, the stuff that came through for the Roswell incident. Remember that alien autopsy movie that I think might have been faked, but might have been real? Who knows?
Yeah.
There were several different other things. Those typical little gray aliens, they're called the Solipsi Ray.
Solipsi Ray?
Yeah, so it's SOLIPSI space RAI.
Oh, wow, I've never heard that. That's cool.
Yeah. And so that's the real name of the Greys, supposedly. But they're often confused with the Zeta Reticulans, which we kind of talked about in the Betty and Barney Hill episode that we did.
So they're similar features, but they're different kinds?
Right, because if you remember the Zeta Reticulans, they're kind of more Asian looking, but sort of also mixed with the Greys. So it's like a mix between the Greys and something else. And then there's this other race that's similar to the Greys called the Maitre. And apparently these guys are extremely violent. So the Greys are like, we are not a part of them because they're... the Greys, I guess, are more kind and stuff, even though here's one thing that I thought was weird. I was like, how can they be so kind, but they're also the ones who abduct us the most? Right.
Like the experimentation, like, is it Phil Schneider who said that he was abducted and raped and experimented on by Greys?
Yes.
So that's kind of how I see them. And then I also see the other side of the Betty and Barney Hill where like they were kind of nice, but they're still like they're throwing their weight around and their power, and they're really, really interested in like the reproductive system.
Sure. Okay, so these Solipsi Rays, I guess I want to call them that, the Solipsi Rays, they are said to be 2 billion years old, and they basically look like that little character from the movie Paul. Did you ever see that?
I love that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. They're just like 3 to 4 feet tall. Their color is like a gray blue. They have no hair on their bodies, which I'm kind of envious because then they never have to shave. They have those large bulbous type heads, the big black eyes. Another representation of what they would look like would be that book, The Communion, the book or the movie. I've never seen or read that, but I've seen the cover of the book 100 times. I think it was by Whitley Strieber.
Yeah.
They have this tiny little slit for a mouth, 2 holes for a nose, these really long arms that kind of hang at their side. You have 3 fingers and a thumb and no genitalia. They come from the Cygnus constellation, and they are kind of said to be related to the Amether race. I'm not really sure who they are, but they mentioned, everything that I've read said that they were related to them.
Mm-hmm. Whoever they are.
And I did find something kind of cool. There were some hieroglyphs in one of the pyramids where it showed an actual kind of Egyptian, and people do think Egyptians are also potentially part alien. So it showed just a typical Egyptian with this tiny little gray alien.
And this is on the walls, I guess?
Yes. Yeah, just on one of the walls. And I was thinking, that's real?
Right?
I had to look it up several times and kind of fact checked, but it looked like it was real.
I wonder if I could easily find a picture or not.
I think so. Do a little search. Just do like hieroglyph. I think that's how I find it. I typed in hieroglyph and then gray alien.
Okay. I'm getting a bunch of stuff because... Let me put in hieroglyph gray because it was like showing me UFOs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's this one website, proofofaliens.com maybe.
There's a lot of stuff and I'm wondering what's real because... It looks real.
Oh, yeah. Here's the one. So on proofofaliens.com or proofofalien.com, not aliens, they have a top 10 ancient Egyptian alien hieroglyphs list.
Okay. Oh, my God. That's real?
Yeah, this shit's real. So number 10, it says various hieroglyphic panels bear images of humans interacting with beings that do not look like humans. These beings are characterized by large craniums and large eyes and look more like little green men than those ones that you see in the sci-fi movies. But it looks like a gray alien to me. That little photo.
That's really creepy. We'll definitely link this.
Isn't it kind of cute?
It is really cute. Like, I am like, okay, this is crazy. It's just literally like a typical 90s little alien head with a little body next to like an Egyptian guy.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I'm like, I gotta look into that.
I know. Everything I found, I couldn't discredit that it was correct. Mm-hmm. So
they seem to have the most history with us, the Greys. Mm-hmm. They're the most ones that commonly are talked about. People are more widely to accept them. I don't know if that's because of Roswell, but that image has...
Or because they're so small.
True. Maybe it's more easier for us to think about that being here. You know, the Bob Lazar thing where he was saying he was reverse engineering flying saucers.
Yeah.
He was saying that like inside there was really small, and the only place that you could stand up as just like maybe a 5'9" guy was in the very center of the ship. So you got to think that it was the Greys walking around in that ship. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Out of all the alien types, I totally believe in Greys.
Yeah, I could get behind them. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much all I had, unless you had anything else to go on top of it.
Okay, well, I have a little bit that I found because I was researching reptilians, and let me connect those two. So they say that the reptilian race is actually the ones who cloned and made like the Greys, and that's why they don't have genitalia.
Oh yeah, I read that.
So I was like, that kind of makes sense, and they are kind of dying off, the Greys. They're like doing tests on humans to try to find like a cure. Mm-hmm. And apparently, in one article I was reading about the reptilians, they noted that there were 70 types of Greys. Does that sound right?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
So, yeah, apparently they're just trying to study human reproduction system to try to fix their genetic disease. And that the reptilians decided to tell the Greys that it's their job to do... They're basically like slaves to reptilians, and they're stockpiling humans to use as a food source for the reptilian race. And so that better not be true.
Right.
Like reptilians is one of those types I assume most people have heard of and probably laughed at and immediately rolled their eyes on. because it's definitely a major, I would say, conspiracy theory tunnel to go down. And the way it's presented is so silly. Like, the first time I heard about reptilians was because of, like, the YouTube videos where they show celebrities' eyes are, like, shifting. And it's just so silly. And, like, everyone says that they run the world. But I wanted to know more because I'm like, why are they always popping up? And where did they all stem from? So I just guess I'll break down the basics of the reptilians that is supposedly been reported. And again, you can look at this as folklore. I'm not trying to say this is fact, but reptilians could be either bad or good, but mostly on Earth we're unfortunately dealing with the bad kind, and that they say they can be about 5 to 7 feet in height, and when they're not in their chameleon form, like looking around like humans, they're gonna be like a tall humanoid, like I guess lizard with the clawed hands, webbed little, you know, claw hands, I should say. They have the big golden eyes with the vertical slits, and they'll either be green or like a brownish color. And supposedly they can live up to 1,000 years, and the only thing that they would be eating is our negative energy.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
I know, it made me think of Sailor Moon, how they're always like trying to give off our energy, and I don't know what kind of species would thrive on energy. So I don't know. Right, so this is where you could say definitely just a conspiracy, or maybe it's true, because according to people who believe in it, they say that reptilians, when they first landed on Earth, are what kind of like ruined humanity. They brought about chaos and sexual perversion and hate, and that's kind of where you get that folklore tie-in with the Bible, and that the reptilian was the one who gave the fruit to Eve and everything like that. So they corrupted us, and when they feed off of us, it says for them to be like a drug, like they really get off on it, and they are telepathic. I swear, like all the alien types I looked into just happen to be telepathic.
All of them, they all have this higher consciousness.
I think that's like the next step in evolution, guys. We got to become telepathic. And that they can even overwhelm you with like data and images in your head if they want to. And there's a kind of a hierarchy of reptilians that we supposedly know about. The main ones on top are going to be called the Alpha Draconians. These ones are really intelligent and really nasty. Some people even say that they have wings. Some people will say that's completely false. And that reptilians claim that they were the ones who originated on Terra, so Earth, like thousands of years ago. And that's why they're here trying to retake it. And so they're part of, I guess you could say, why we have that suppression of technology, and they want to keep humanity kind of from advancing. And their main goal is just like destruction and domination.
Yeah, they want to rule us.
Yeah,
that's everything I read. They want to rule us.
Right. And so there's a theory basically that these draconians, they are able to reincarnate themselves and recycle themselves lifetime after lifetime without going into the light, and basically choosing to stay in the same powerful family year after year after year, and just getting more and more powerful. And so that's where you get these theories that like the royal family, like Queen Elizabeth, is all like reptilians, and the Bush family, and this is what's behind like the New Order. And because of the large number of reptilians, they have their own like secret societies, clubs, these elite clubs and organizations, basically like the Illuminati. They're trying to say is all reptilian. And Beyonce, of course. So I think this is why it's really easy for people to roll their eyes at this whole thing, and that could be kind of like, you could say, the government's way of making it sound so ridiculous that we'll never believe it, but it's right under our noses.
Right.
So I don't know. Then there's the chameleon type of reptilians. Those are the shapeshifter ones that you always see like on YouTube. I don't think any of those videos are honestly real, but if they are, that would be really crazy. And those are said to be living on these underground bases on Earth. And then you have the full reptiles or reptilian kinds who mix with humans, and so there's like hybrids, and the full reptilians are the ones who are in control of the hybrids, and these hybrids don't even know they're reptilians. So that's kind of how they say that the celebrities are unawares of when they have those eye shifts, because they don't even know that they're reptilians.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Right? And I did find Smashing Pumpkins, I don't know if you're familiar with them. One of the guys in it, Billy Corgan, is he the main singer?
Yep.
So I don't know if you heard this, but he was on Howard Stern twice talking about this. He really didn't want to talk about it, but Howard would like force him to say more and more. But he was saying he saw a shapeshifter.
Okay.
And it kind of sounded like he saw a shapeshifter who was naked. So then Howard was like, oh, so were you having sex with it? Were you having sex with it? And he didn't say. He wouldn't say. But he was basically trying to say that he turned around and who was there was no longer there, or it was like two people were there, and that this person, it just sounded like they came out of the other individual and became like a whole reptilian person.
Oh.
So I thought that was kind of cool to mention.
Yeah, for sure.
A celebrity saying that they accidentally had sex with a reptilian.
I feel like a lot of celebrities have had experiences with the paranormal in general. They just don't talk about it a lot.
I wonder if it's because as a musician you're kind of like an artistic brain, you're a little more
right.
out there, and you probably do experiment with drugs and just live a different lifestyle. So there's a chance that kind of stuff would be attracted to you.
Right, exactly.
So I don't know, that's what I found kind of about reptilians. I feel like they could be false. Mm-hmm. There's also a lot of folklore from like Africa that there are people who have these stories that are passed down like orally from tradition to tradition, from the shamans actually, that like there was this reptilian race that was in there in the beginning, and they came out of these caves, and like every man I guess was a part of that race. And so for them, they do believe that, well, there's this one shaman in particular who goes on and talks about it like on interviews and stuff, but he does believe that they're like these mixes, these hybrid mixes of like reptilians. So it's just interesting to see how far back these legends go.
I feel like everything that I read about alien species made it sound like that the world was definitely a melting pot, and that each country had or each alien race kind of had a stake in each country here on Earth.
That kind of makes sense, because obviously we are all different,
right?
And we all came from some sort of different species, not just from one woman and man, you know, Adam and Eve.
Right.
So
there's some people who believe that there's a potential that they're still engineering people and somehow placing them on Earth. Still to this day.
Creepy thoughts. Very
creepy thoughts. Yeah.
So that's all I really had on reptilians. What else do you have?
Okay, let's transition into the Lyra constellation star system. So I know you and I both had a few. I have 2 in the Lyra constellation, so I thought I guess we decided I'd talk about mine first, and then you'll talk about your kitties.
Yes,
your kitties.
It's my space cats.
So, yeah, space cats. Woohoo! Finally. I knew they were real.
I know.
So the first group I came across was the Hyadians, and they were originally from this planet called Avalon, which is in the Lyra constellation star system. And it turns out that many years ago, there was this war in that star system, and some of the people fled that area. Some of them went to the Pleiades, and some of them went to the Hyades. So there we get these little offshoots, apparently, is what they're saying. And this is all kind of in the star cluster of Taurus. Everything seems to be in Taurus, that Lyra constellation star system in Taurus. So they said that the Hyadians are about 151 light years from Earth, and that they are kind of these tall, Nordic-like creatures that they're similar to humans, that they have this long hair, and they look a lot like what you'll talk about later, the Pleiadians. And once again, we come across these people who are very telepathic. It said that they're very telepathic, and actually they can channel more than use telepathy. And I guess they did come to Earth at one time, but they prefer not to travel outside of their own system that they're at now. So when they come to Earth, they actually channel themselves to Earth. So apparently when they're channeling, that means they're just in this higher kind of vibrational state while meditating, and then they connect with somebody here on Earth to try to get information to them.
That's pretty cool. I mean, why, if you don't have to travel and you can just do it like that.
Right. And I think these are the guys that I read that they like to stay close to home, so that if anybody is looking for refuge, they can come there. So if there's war in another region of the universe or something, they can come straight to where the Hyadians are, and the Hyadians will take them in and help them find a new place to live.
That's nice.
Kind of mutate into a different area.
Take all the refugees. Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. And then a neighbor of theirs are the vegans. And it's funny because it looks like vegans.
That's how I was saying
it. Yeah. So if you're trying to research them, it's like, okay, vegan. No, it sounds like the word vague and then N.
Like vegans might as well be aliens. I don't know how you don't eat cheese.
Right.
I was like, it makes sense. They're all from fucking space.
Right. So the vegans are also from the Lyra constellation in the Vega star system. And they're more of a dark-skinned humanoid look. So they still are kind of tall like a Nordic person, but that kind of varies. Like it depends on when I was reading, it kind of depended on what like variation they were from, what year they were born. So as they've gotten newer ones, they're smaller and smaller and more like human size. So they started out really tall and now they're just shrinking apparently. And so when I say dark skinned, I guess I'm thinking Native American Aborigine, because it said that the vegans were potentially the ones who made the Native Americans and the Aborigines, and that they genetically engineered them and put them here.
Interesting.
Yeah. And also that they potentially genetically engineered those in Africa. And I was trying to find it, but my daughter was watching some cult thing on Netflix or Hulu or something like that, and there is a cult out there that actually believes that they are genetically engineered humans. And so it's just a bunch of Africans that have gotten together who believe this, and they believe that when they die, they'll go back to their home planet.
You never know. Just don't
Exactly.
just don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Just don't drink the Kool-Aid. That's right. That was kind of all I had on them.
Well, I'm glad you kind of covered some other types of Lyrians, because there was a lot coming up when you look into that race.
Right? Mm-hmm.
I also found that there's like a bird-like humanoid type of Lyrian, but then when I found out that there was a type called the felines, I was like, oh, this is what I'm covering. Hell yeah. So like we said, there's space cats, and that made me so happy. They kind of just sound like thundercats, and they're really tall. They're like bipedal cats. They're about 12 to 16 feet tall, so that's kind of like Avatar height, almost like from the movie Avatar.
Yeah.
And they have features of like what we have on Earth as far as like the lions, cats, and tiger faces. They have like round ears, and they have the soft fuzz all over their skin. The males and the females both have like long manes and tails, and they just sound so freaking cute. They're usually like sandy color or like golden or red hair, and they will wear like very decorative clothing typically. And this is a type of alien that is nothing like the reptilians. They're said to be extremely kind and intellectual, and as they mature, they tend to become more somber and wise, and elders are really held in high regard in their community. And there's a lot of like feline shamans, which just sounds like the most amazing thing ever, cat shamans.
For sure.
And the men and women in their society are equal, and everyone is really freaking strong, and they are as well telepathic, and they tend to be a really close-knit society, and really, really smart and engineered a lot. They helped create space travel, according to legends, and many other alien races like the Palladians, who are said to be our creator, basically. I guess they helped them by doing master genetics and things like that. It just was kind of a lot of information that I was trying to keep up on.
Right.
But they do a lot of genetic engineering of different races, and it said that they have a big hand in creating the human genome, so it's possible that we are here on Earth kind of descendants of these beings, if you're going to buy into all of this. And the Lyrian felines are really, really ancient and have lived for eons. And I was watching this video that basically said that they evolved from a really more primitive lion creature, kind of like what we have on Earth, like it was on all fours and just more of a simple beast, and then through like evolution it became what it is today. And it sounds like the Lyrians have had a lot of war in their system, because the felines were also part of a war. It might have been the same one you were mentioning, and that they were
I think so.
almost wiped out on their home planet. And really afterwards, it was up to the shaman Lyrians to keep their culture and society going by passing on all the legends and everything. And they were basically traveling to try to find a new home. They did end up coming to our universe with the Lyrian bird type race as like traveling diplomats. They're both said to be higher dimensional forms, and they're trying to come to places like Earth to shift the energies in the environments and to spark creative flow and psychic abilities. They're trying to be awakeners, I guess you could say. They are also kind of known as galactic performers. They like to go around just being artistic and sharing their abilities and their art with us. And so when they were on Earth, supposedly they also had a war with the reptilians. And they kicked some reptilian ass and sent the reptilians underground. And so that is why they live underground. Go kitty cats, meow! And like a lot of the alien mythos, it's tied into Egypt. So they're trying to say this is why you have like the Basset lion gods, and in the Egyptian like hieroglyphs you see the lion goddesses, and you see like the bird type beings, because these are really just all depicting the alien races that came down. So it seems like
even the Sphinx,
right? Ooh, yeah. Sphinx
with those paws, those cat paws,
right? I didn't even think about that. That's so true. That's like the Thundercat dome.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Now we gotta go there.
I've always wanted to go to Egypt for sure. As a kid, I was all about watching shows about Egyptology and the pyramids. Like, I would love to go.
Be cool.
And it'd be like us with a piece of paper and a crayon trying to get patterns of all the aliens, and they're like, "Get out of here! You can't touch the walls."
I'm like, I can't help it.
So I was really stoked to even hear that there's mythology on feline type creatures. I never heard of that before.
Yeah, that's so cool. So even if none of this is real, here's what or maybe I shouldn't say it that way. If all of this is real, they gave us the springboard for all of our great movies.
True.
Books.
They're so creative.
TV shows. Yeah. All of these cartoons. Think of the comic books that have come about because of aliens.
That's true. And I don't know. I wonder if, like, what they think of cats.
And your cat in the background.
He's literally like, meow, meow. Yes, we're talking about your ancestors.
Oh, I love it.
So those are the little Lyrians, I guess, groups that we covered. And then I know you had a couple, was it the Venusians we want to move on to?
Yeah, the Venusians. And so they are from Venus, supposedly, but not on the same. This is where the planes of existence comes in. So it is the belief in mythology that the Venusians were on a similar plane of existence than us, but kind of one that's just a little bit underneath us, called the ethereal plane. And this is basically a state of higher vibration. So it's where a realm of where your consciousness can go. So when you're meditating, when you're just highly meditating, when you're in this deep meditative state, like a Buddhist monk say, you may be in this other realm of consciousness. And it's said that this is where the Venusians are. And so I thought, does that mean that they're just walking around in this meditative state and then like totally undetected to us? So
that could be interesting. So they're not like trying to blend in and act like humans? Interesting.
What I read was that in Theosophy, they talked about the different planes of existence. I kind of talked about that just briefly earlier, and I definitely want to do an episode. But they say that once we leave the physical plane, that's where our body is, and then it dies. And then we go to this ethereal plane, and that is where our soul lives. And so that's where they believe the Venusians are. And then if you want to take it a step further, Theosophy then says that the soul goes into an astral body and then lives in an astral plane. So that's what Theosophy kind of tells us in a nutshell, but not like, I could totally go in way more depth than that.
I'm sure, yeah.
But so then when the Venusians actually show themselves to us, it's said that they have light hair, light skin, they're tall, blonde, and beautiful. And they do show themselves sometimes, and they've tried to insert themselves a little bit into society. I know that when you Google search the Venusians, you're going to come up with a bunch of beautiful alien pictures. You'll see that some of them have tried to infiltrate themselves into Washington, D.C. Wherever they can try to put themselves into, they will. But they try to stay back and work with telepathy instead. Once they are contacting somebody with telepathy, then they will show themselves. So another cool thing that I found out about them was that in some of the old Greek writings, they called the Venusians Cythereans, and it's really hilarious why. So the Greek word used to describe anything from Venus was Venerian, which is like venereal disease. And so they didn't want that to be associated with Venus. And so they called them Cythereans.
That's silly.
Then it was changed to Venusians because they didn't want it to be confused with another Greek goddess called the Cytherean goddess. So I thought that was really interesting. And I did come across this guy called Jerry Lodrigas, and he has a video. We're going to post it on our links. It's basically just astropix.com. But he claims to have caught a video of Venusians in their ethereal form. And I know that you watched it and you had a totally different take than I did. So,
so ethereal form, that's what that's supposed to be?
Yes. So that would...
Okay, I guess describe the video, I guess.
So basically he wanted to take a video of Venus as it was close to the sun. So that way he could just get a different picture of it. So I guess I was looking at his website, and what's kind of cool is he takes all these videos with his telescope and he attaches stuff to it so that he can get a good view. So he can get view of different things in the solar system. And one day when Venus was close to the sun, he decided that he would take this really close video, and he noticed that even though he's taken tons of videos of the sun area, this particular day when Venus was close, he noticed that there was this kind of floating that almost looked like dust specks, or more of like, I'm trying to think, like a jellyfish like substance almost. That's what it reminded me of, a jellyfish type substance. And so it's just floating through the air and kind of going on its own way.
Okay, I thought they were trying to say that was like flying spaceships or something. So no. Okay. No.
He was just trying to say that that's them in their ethereal form.
Gotcha.
So it's their spirit, so to speak.
Okay. So to me, looking at it, I was like, it just kind of looks like little dust particles like flying up, but they are all flying like directly into the sun.
Sure. And that kind of makes sense, because think of it, when you're taking pictures of ghosts here on Earth, that's sometimes how they show up, is in what looks like a speck of dust, but it's not.
Like orbs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure this guy spends a lot of time looking through his telescope, so he knows an anomaly when he spots one, but I do not. So I was expecting to see a hot blonde person, and I didn't.
No, you did not.
Just this hot guy waving, hey.
Hey, I'm just hanging out up here. I'm just flying around. Coming to your house
don't expect to see that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Then the abductions won't be complained about so much.
Right. You're like, should I be afraid if I'm abducted by this tall, blonde-haired, gorgeous being?
Yeah.
Just take me.
A lot of celebrities that I would say would come up with that are like the Skarsgårds, like Alexander Skarsgård. Yeah. Amanda Seyfried was coming up as an alien a lot because she has those big bug eyes to the side.
And Uma Thurman.
And then Uma Thurman for sure. I know you kind of want to talk about her. So she's supposed to like supposedly have a line from Venus, right?
Yeah, she's either a Venusian or Pleiadian. So it depends on who says it. So when you Google search Uma Thurman alien, you're going to find that somebody actually took a picture. I think it was George Adamski, who is a photographer.
There was a lot of information about her family that I got bored reading. But like if you go back and back and back and back to like back in her family, like everyone's done something kind of cool. And so they're trying to say, oh, that's because they're powerful and spiritual beings. So like her father, his name's Robert Thurman. He's actually a scholar who translated Buddhist texts like the Book of the Dead. And they say that's helped Eastern philosophy become more popular in the West and just brought enlightenment to the West.
Gotcha.
So, and like this website, I'm sure it's like, it was one of the first ones that popped up when I typed in like Uma Thurman alien. It went from her father to her mother, her grandmothers, and all this is trying to say that they're this long line of influential beings and artistic beings.
Interesting.
I thought it was cool that her dad did that.
Yeah. Okay, so it was George Adamski. So he said that she was a Venusian, and he took a picture of her in the 1950s, and it really does look like Uma Thurman, but a cross between Uma Thurman and something else, and she was just this Nordic Venusian type alien. So what does he say? He says, the Nordics are one of the alien races that monitors our progress here on Earth. And then...
You're going down a rabbit hole.
I'm going down a rabbit hole on the air. No, he's like, I guess the Nazis got involved with these beings via mystics and human sacrifices, potentially. Mm-hmm. And it's thought that the blue-eyed, blonde-haired Aryan represented a strong Venusian Nordic alien genetic splice bloodline. And this through the Thule, something called the Thule Society, they were able to channel a Nordic goddess. Interesting. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One of the other things to tie to Uma Thurman, I guess you could say, to think that she's like a Venusian, her first appearance was in this weird little movie. It's Terry Gilliam's Baron Munchausen.
Yes.
Have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't seen it, but I read about
Adventures.
it. Yeah.
I actually saw it, and it's like her scene that she comes out. She's dressed as like Venus coming in the little shell. Mm-hmm. Like the goddess Venus, and she's like super beautiful. And so they were saying that was her alien coming out.
Oh.
her alien cotillion.
I guess.
Right?
I don't think that... It's really hard. I hate this because I'm like, I don't think that she's really an alien, but I might believe in Venusians.
True. And maybe she is a descendant.
Yeah, maybe they genetically...
I won't take that away.
Right. Maybe they genetically modified her line, which could be said about any race on Earth, really. So I think it's easier for me to believe that they are these ethereal beings. It's easy for me to get behind that they might be floating around in this spirit form just because I believe in ghosts so much.
That would be really crazy.
I know, right? But cool.
Like, why do they want to do that? Just to monitor our growth?
Probably. Or to aid us so that we're not killing ourselves. But look at how much that goes on in the world today. I mean, not just today, but that has gone on the world since the beginning of time. There's just been nothing but fighting between each other and all this killing. All this killing for no reason.
Exactly. Should I get into the Palladians and the Nordic research that I got? So yeah, this very much ties. I feel like these two beings are almost one and the same as far as how they sound. Right. But when I look up just specifically Palladians, again, they look a lot like Nordic Scandinavian people. They have beautiful blue eyes and blonde hair. And they come from the Palladius star system. And of course, like everyone on this roster, they have psychic abilities and telepathy and dematerialization. When they're with each other, they barely would even like speak. They would just communicate telepathically, which I would totally feel like would be what you would do. It'd be like, oh, that's too much work to open my mouth. I'm not going to make a sound. And Palladians are said to have a 700-year lifespan, and they don't have any medical problems because they actually control their health through their mental powers. And so they're beings who really know a lot about healing. I think it's said that they brought like these healing systems to Earth. And I don't know if...
I'm not surprised.
Right? And so the Palladian star cluster, it says it's made up of 7 small stars. And again, it's in that Taurus constellation. Which is about 500 light years from Earth is what I was reading. But for the Palladians, it takes them only 7 hours to get to Earth if they want to because of their technology.
Whoa.
Which is insane. And just like it sounds like the Venusians, they have been recording Earth's history and our evolution. And the Palladians, they think that they discovered Earth around like 225,000 BC. And when they spotted our sun system, they arranged a scouting mission and landed on Earth to find more basically out about the planet and what was going on here. And at that time they found 3 separate basically underdeveloped civilizations on Earth, and they thought that they could share they are believed to share some sort of common ancestry with humans from the Lyrian aliens. So the Palladians thought they could offer something to these civilizations and just kind of lend a helping hand to society. And so for a long time they tried to stop us from going into those wars and stop us from being like hateful.
Right.
And they had a lot of struggles with that. They ended up making a couple of really big spiritual societies with amazing landmarks, like Lemuria, Maya. They were in the Incan civilizations and even said to go to Machu Picchu as kind of like their best hopes where they could try to change culturally and just kind of bring things about quicker. But they wanted to basically bring more of a positive and natural spiritual path for people. And there was this one Palladian leader, his name's, I guess, Pelejas is how you could say that. And he decided that it was just really time for them to leave the humans alone because they kept ending up in war, no matter what they tried. But he felt that the human race should, be allowed to fight its own way. And he also had heard news that his home planet had ended its own war, so it was just all kind of coming together, like, we gotta leave.
Right.
But rumors are that the Palladians left one, like, Palladian spiritual person behind who was named Jemanuel, who later became known as Jesus. So they like to say that Jesus was just this Palladian guy who, I guess he doesn't have blonde hair, but okay.
Well, that we know of. Who knows?
Right.
We don't really know. We weren't there.
Yeah, I know. He's always depicted as a white guy with brunette hair, which just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it doesn't. Especially from where he comes from. I mean...
Yeah, he should be Middle Eastern.
But if he's
Palladian...
If he was in Mary's body, we don't know where that came from. He was said to come from... His father was obviously God... But an
immaculate conception
with an angel overseeing everything.
Mm-hmm.
It could be whatever species he wanted it to be. It doesn't have to look like anything from Earth. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. It's interesting how with a lot of this alien stuff, it kind of all comes back to some sort of biblical thing or Egypt. Like we always try to tie it back into our ancient texts and our images because they're like, look, it's been here all along.
Tend to forget. You know what's crazy is in Middle East, I read, or not just read, but heard through stories of people that I knew who were over in the Kuwait area, that a lot of the things in Kuwait and Iran and Iraq were all destroyed. So they had tons and tons of history related to Sumerians and other races that have died out, and all of it was either destroyed or captured by higher ups and kept from the public. I don't know. I just think it's a power move so people don't actually know where they come from because they want it to be one specific religion over there. So it's all religious and corruption and control.
Yeah, alien life forms don't really lend to control. Like if people were to have disclosure of aliens, it would probably cause a lot of chaos and looting and people questioning all religion.
Yeah.
So you definitely have to keep that under wraps.
I think I totally read a lot how a lot of aliens are fascinated by our different types of religions and how we use them to control other people.
Mm-hmm. I've heard others too that don't even care, but then these other types are like super, super spiritual. So it's hard to say. I did read that like Palladians, apparently they are nurturing life forms and they're really into like whales and dolphins. And since, whales and dolphins are like the only thing on Earth that are as intelligent as humans basically and have that many complex emotions and thoughts. So I thought that was really cool because like those are like my favorite type of animals is marine mammals. Like I love whales and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, ooh, if there's an alien connection, that would be so cool. And like I guess Palladians might be the type that they say use our oceans for their little bases. And
the underground, yeah.
And like we've talked about recently, like the Navy has been being more public about all the weird, like unidentified, I guess, underwater vehicles that they've been seeing and things like that.
Mm-hmm. So did you read something or were you thinking that they are still visiting Earth?
It's kind of like the channeling thing is super common with these Palladians. And so if you go on YouTube, you're going to see a ton of people who are like channeling them, saying they get messages from them. So I don't know if they're still on here, but I want to say that there's people who say that they've had sexual encounters with Palladians. I'm not sure how true any of this is. And are you familiar with the whole star seeds concept?
Yes, a little bit. Well, I guess I should say a tiny bit. So tell me.
That's how I was. That's kind of how I was. I was like, what are they talking about, starseed? So I believe like a starseed would be like an alien being who chooses to reincarnate on Earth. As you're growing up, you might have memories or just like maybe you're a crystal child or an indigo child, and that's because you were telepathic and all this in another life. You have residue of that in this life. And so there's so many like online quizzes to figure out like what starseed you are. Are you Venusian? Are you Palladian? Are you this? Are you that? And so I started like going down that little rabbit hole and being like, which one am I? And I got Palladian as my results for my test. And like, I don't really know if any of that's true, but it seems to be in a whole spiritual community dedicated to trying to channel these beings and find some sort of link to them.
Well, I totally want to do that test. Are you going to link it?
I can, yeah. There's a lot of them. But I like the one I took, so I can link it below. Find out what starseed you are.
I totally want to know what starseed I am. I mean, obviously, I have abilities, so I feel like I would be one of them.
Right? I was thinking about you when I was taking it. I was like, oh, would this be interesting for her to take it live? And I was like, probably not. Because it was like 30 questions, and each page had a pop-up. Like it's one of those type of quizzes.
Crazy.
You know, I'm like that, and with each pop up, I'm like, this must be bullshit.
It's taking forever.
But you keep going.
Oh.
Yeah, but I don't know, Palladians, I guess, you know what I was thinking too, like looking into all these types of aliens, like if we were to encounter a Palladian, most of those stories, like I think that's like the Love and Flying Saucers documentary, like that guy said he was having sex with one of these Palladians, like that seems to be the most common occurrence. And then when we get in with the Greys, there's just such fear, and like if the government were to catch a Grey, you know that they would cut it up and treat it horribly, but like a Palladian or a Venusian or whatever how you pronounce it, I think they'd have more of a chance because they look basically human.
Right. Exactly.
Like that we wouldn't fuck with it, you know?
That if they saw a reptilian but it hadn't shifted, they'd be like, oh, you're going down.
Yeah.
But anything that's humanoid-like is safe.
I would think so. Like Lyrians, I don't think anyone would handle that. Like a talking cat just walking around, I think that would be too much.
I think I might really enjoy cats more. if they talk to me.
I don't know. My cats are kind of jerks sometimes.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be fun?
It would be. Like I definitely want to be like Eliza Doolittle or whatever. Not Eliza Doolittle. Eliza Thornberry.
Yes.
I was thinking Mr. Doolittle, mixing those together and talk to animals.
Yeah. So I think that animals are telepathic. Like I swear that sometimes my dog is trying to force me into getting snacks. So she'll just be staring at me and then she'll kind of look over at the treats or she'll look over at the kitchen and she's kind of like moving her head like, hey, you hear what I'm saying to you? Or she'll show me images, like we're that connected that she'll show me images of food. And I'm like, I don't want to eat dog food. And this one time last week or the week before, I was taking a nap on the couch and she was laying on me and all I kept dreaming about was me going to her treat snacks and eating them all. And I was like,
oh my God.
I swear that she put that in my head because why would I want to eat dog treats?
I am so overwhelmed by the idea of telepathically communication with your animal. This is amazing. But how disappointing is it the only damn thing they want to talk about is how they want food.
Right.
They don't make for excellent conversationalists.
Yeah, right. I don't think that's all of them. I just think that my dog is food deprived. And I could put psychology into this one because when we got her from a shelter. And when they found her, she was only 3 months old and she was found in a ditch and they believed that she was there since birth, that she was just roaming, looking for food, trying to find food. Aww. And so I think that the first 3 months of her life, which are very important to a dog, she didn't have any food.
She was cave womaning it up, living it out there.
Exactly. And so now she's just always afraid that she's never going to have food.
Aww. Poor thing. I hate the amount of anxiety some dogs seem to have.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not fair that, like, I was told that by some sort of study that when you leave the room, your dog doesn't think you're coming back every single time.
I know.
And it makes me feel like shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's okay, I'll be back.
Yeah.
Oh, little doggies.
I know.
I did not come across a dog-like race, but there's so many types of dogs. I'm sorry, aliens.
Yeah, so many types.
That has to be.
Like thousands of races, it seems like, that we came across. Maybe not thousands, maybe it was hundreds, but I felt like there were way more than my mind could wrap around.
Right, and it kind of became confusing because, like, you look into one type of Illyrian that leads to another who's connected to another. But that makes sense because, like, when I was researching it, it made me think of, like, the sci-fi that we grew up with, like Star Wars. Like, you only have the Twi'leks and the Sand People and this and that and this and that, but they never crossbreed, which is just bullshit. Like, of course you're going to have crossbreeding. Of course you're going to have different hybrids. And these alien things, when you look into them, there's all these hybrids. And I was like, oh, that makes way more sense. People in space are going to start commingling and making own little races. So I kind of think it's more realistic this way.
Yeah, for sure.
And now I'm thinking about weird Star Wars porn, Jawa, and a fucking Wookiee.
Tons of side trips on this podcast today. I love it.
I was like, what would that look like?
Did you have any other things about the Pleiadians, or can I talk about my last one?
Oh, yes. Tell us about the last one. Which one is it?
I have the Orions.
Okay, I forgot about these guys.
And I found out that obviously they're from the Orion constellation and that they're kind of this darker skinned. It said that it's another race of alien that potentially had a hand in Egypt. So that's, if you research all of the Egyptology stuff, which it sounds like you have, or hopefully everybody else is excited about Egypt as we are. Mm-hmm. But the pyramids are supposedly in the shape of the Orion constellation for Orion's belt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so amazing.
Yeah. So it's super cool. So it said that they potentially also had a hand in that, and they may have had a way to contact each other. This form of alien, I'm not sure how they communicated, and I couldn't find a whole lot on them. So if they had a hand in our world, I don't know a whole lot of how and why. I didn't even find out really what they look like, other than that they are humanoid and they have darker skin. It also was interesting that when NASA and other companies who are kind of like NASA, those private companies who all have their satellites pointed out in different regions, they gather all the noises and information, and they go through it. Somebody combs through and listens to hours and hours of stuff, and they have gotten wave sound after wave sound of some deep space noises coming from the Orion constellation, and they don't know what it is, but it keeps happening. And
that's really creepy, because I also heard that reptilians are from Orion's belt kind of area.
So the ones that I was looking at, it's like they're from like potentially three different planets, and they're part of this program. I don't know if you came across it in your research, called the Galactic Federation. Mm-hmm. And basically,
somebody mentioned this.
The Galactic Federation of Light. And that's where all of these species of aliens kind of band together to protect weaker communities and provide light and love and a wish for peace in the multiverse.
Yes, and the felines are a part of that.
Yes, and so the Orions are a part of that too. And yay. I did find out that the little section that they're from, I think, really is from Orion's belt, and that they come from this humid, warm, kind of tropical region where there's jungles, and instead of having large land masses on the planet, it's more like these small islands. And so they live in this kind of little island setup, I guess. And let's see, these are the ones, oh, that's right, the Orions potentially also have pictures in pyramids, is what I read. So somebody said that there were Orion hieroglyphs in Egypt.
Okay, so they are humanoid, so I wonder how they look distinctly like Orion, you know?
Right. There's something that sets them apart.
Okay,
There's something
could be like
about
a constellation or something?
Right. I think that their heads are shaped differently. They're not bulbous or anything like that. They're just shaped differently than we would normally think of as a person.
Okay, gotcha. It all comes back to Egypt, baby.
Right. So very, very interesting stuff.
Yeah, I wonder why they were harder to find information on, but
I don't know.
It's like, it makes me more curious. Like, I'm like, I want to know more.
Right. Right. That whole galactic. Oh, go ahead.
No, let's Galactic Federation. Yeah, what do you have to say on that?
That whole Galactic Federation, I was like, because it exists. I mean, it actually, there's websites for it. There are people that claim that they're from it. We've had mass transmissions in history, I guess, from the Galactic Federation of Light.
What?
So on their websites, because there's several different websites, they will tell you every transmission that's been throughout history of what's been received from them here on Earth. And I don't know why that they're discredited by a lot of people. So
I immediately go, well, if it's their own website, we got to go more than that. That's why I started believing that vampires were real.
That's true.
When I went to that one website,
That's
it was
true.
like Vampire Hunters in America, and I thought it was real.
Right. It's just that I've heard of the Galactic Federation from different places, so I know that it's real. I mean,
why wouldn't they want that? You know, like, I'm sure if you are into NASA, you would want to have like a backup, or maybe there's something about that, like on the little Hubble or whatever goes out there looking for people.
It's almost like we don't want to join, or it's undercover. I remember back in the 90s hearing something about the Pentagon, that all of alien races would meet at the Pentagon.
What?
Yeah, this was a huge thing because I followed all of the UFO stuff in the 90s, and I remember hearing about that just different races would meet there, and they'd meet with the president. Sometimes not the president, because maybe the president wasn't privy. It depends on which president it was. So there was a potential that certain higher ups would sit down and meet with them to kind of see how they could progress their relationship within the universe. But I was like, if that's the case, why aren't we traveling to planets inside of our own solar system? Why don't we have the ships to go to place if we meet with them and our government is meeting with them? And
because of reptilians.
No, it's really hard. It's like, because I believe there is a conspiracy theory about potential alien information being hidden from us from the government. However, I don't think it's as in depth as a lot of ufologists say. So, because otherwise, why wouldn't we have their technology?
What about the theory of just them trying to suppress us and control us?
You mean the government or the aliens?
Either, whoever's in charge.
I don't see aliens trying to suppress us and control us unless it is the reptilians. But other places, like the people involved in the Galactic Federation, I can't see the Palladians being like, yeah, we want to control you. Really, they just want us to learn to love each other and everyone.
I heard the Palladians really do not like the Greys.
Oh, I wonder why. Probably because they're genetically engineered. And is it all the Greys or just a specific ones?
They didn't say. There's so many types of Greys. Is there a green type of Grey? I feel like there has to be.
There is a green Grey that I came across, but I can't remember if that's the one called Elfif. There's just so many different varieties that I couldn't narrow it down. That's why I just started talking about the Calypsy Rays, because they seemed so cute and adorable.
Yeah.
And easier to handle than the negative ones.
I know, like, Greys kind of scare me because of the idea of being abducted and stuff like that. But if they're friendly and all that, I'm cool with them. But it just seems like they have the most traction of maybe reliable Earth history out of all of these types.
Right. It's probably because they're small. So think of them not as tiny little beings. Think of them as robots almost, because they're just here to collect information and send that information back to whoever needs it. So maybe they're contracted to be here.
And there was this theory too that what if the government is creating them and cloning them and they're trying to make this weird life? I don't know if that would be true, or if maybe they really did find bodies and then they tried to clone those bodies. That would be super creepy.
Yeah, that'd be creepy. Interesting.
Oh, aliens.
Oh, aliens, wherefore art thou?
I know. Can you please come down on your spaceships and take us to your little spaceports?
I feel like I've had some sort of alien encounter, but it was more that I didn't know if it was an alien or a spirit. And if they are one and the same, who knows? It depends.
Was this a dream kind of like channeling?
It was not a dream. I was just sitting and kind of, you know how at the end of the day when you're sitting and you're just trying to decompress everything that happened in the last 12 hours or however long since you got to sit down and breathe without doing anything. And so I tend to not, during that time, I tend to not watch TV or have my phone. I just kind of sit there and contemplate and see if there's anything I need to unpack and let go of. And I use that time to also do any self-healing. And so while I was doing this, you know, I'm just performing Reiki on myself while I'm sitting there trying to relax. And all of a sudden I kind of saw this something. I don't know exactly what it was. It could have been an alien. It could have been a spirit showing themselves as an alien. All I know is that I have this kind of strip plug. What are those called? Those plugs that you can put on
power
the wall.
Strip, I guess.
Yeah, power strip. Yeah. So I have a power strip and it's got these 3 lights on it kind of that look like a face, because that's what they do with these little power strips. And so if my room is all black, you can see these little red lights. Well, I thought maybe our power had gone out because I didn't see them. And then I was looking at a little bit further and I could see kind of a shape standing in front of the lights. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, is someone there? And then I saw something dash to the right and the lights popped up as if nobody was there. But it must have been about 3 feet tall.
Okay, now you got me with the alien.
Yeah.
So outline, any kind of outline?
Yeah, kind of. Definitely not human-like, but it's hard to say.
Would you say gray?
I mean, it could have been. I'm not going to say outright, but because I believe in spirits so much, it's hard for me to say, was it a child's spirit?
Okay.
Or was it a little alien gray?
Gotcha.
But it could have been, because it did kind of have the same type of shape, but I don't know.
Any other things that would set it apart from your typical haunting vibe? Was there anything else?
Well, I've had a couple of other things, but I don't necessarily know that I want to talk about them because it makes me feel crazy. So I think I'll save that, and maybe if I get brave and let go of my fear, I'll say it online. But I think that I got to keep some of that stuff to myself.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you saying that you may or may not have. Yeah. So that's cool and terrifying. Were you, did you have a bad vibe?
I think that I really allowed my fear when this, do you mean when I saw that little spirit or this other thing that happened? So when I saw the little thing, I was just, this happened within the past 2.5 weeks. So like I said, remember I said I've been working on my fears, so I didn't get scared. When I saw it, I was just like, wait, come back. I need to talk to you and see what you really were, but it didn't come back.
This was recent.
Yes, it was recent.
Was it while you were researching them, like in that same time period?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I feel like that could be something because they could feel that you're looking into them. And it just, knowing you, I know that you've been on the pulse of aliens for a long time.
Yes, for pretty much my whole life.
And I feel like there's a reason to that. Like, I am a baby when it comes to learning about aliens, so I feel like there's almost more of a connection to you and aliens there.
Yeah. I mean, before I even knew what aliens were, I was dreaming of aliens. So I just couldn't put a name to them.
I just imagine you as a little girl, like in a flying saucer with little greens. Like, that's your dream.
Ah! No, whenever I saw them, I always got scared when I was little. Because they don't look human. So every time I know, every time I saw them, I was just like, and I was, for anybody, all of our listeners, I was just this tiny little girl. I literally was one of the tiniest people that you could see. I was just so small. Like, you take an average kid who is 3 or 4 and put me next to them, and I look like I'm 2. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was a tiny child. I was a tiny little child. So I think for me, it was just like when I saw them, I was like this tiny little child, and they'd always show me their ships when I was little, but I didn't know that's what it was. Mm-hmm. You know,
I mean, that's so cool because that's not an age where you're having outside influences. Probably not even of media at that time. No, because I was really sheltered in what I could watch on TV. So I didn't know what an alien was when I was contacted by what I considered to be aliens. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we've gone on a little long today, but it's just because there's just so much to cover. There's so many things to say about aliens.
Yeah, lots. All I know is eventually we're going to talk about all the planes of existence, and I can't say that enough. So
true. Add that to the calendar.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome.
Well,
alrighty.
Wrap it up for today?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening, and you can join us next Wednesday where we're going to be discussing... What are we discussing? Oh,
we're going to have a witchy palooza.
We're going to have a witchy palooza, so all things witchy. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Cousins Coven, which is all one word, or over on Facebook. And don't forget to check out our blog at cousinscoven.home.blog, where you can sign up for our monthly newsletter and also find words of witchy wisdom spells and our archive podcast episodes. So don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share, and send any cauldron topic ideas where we talk about witchy things. If you have any questions you want us to answer or any other paranormal experience of your own, into cousinscoven2@gmail.com.
May you find happiness in your heart, love for yourself, and join each other. Blessings to all.